Hey everybody, Ms. Dietrich here. We're taking a look at an inequality word problem, which I find very difficult, and I really think you have to graph it in order to wrap your brain around it. Nancy wants to fill her fish tank with pebbles, toys, and of course fish. She only has $100 to spend, which we have represented right here. If the fish cost at least $60, which inequality represents the amount of money Nancy could spend on pebbles and toys? If we graph this out, it's really going to help our brains process what we need to do. She has the $100 to spend, and we know that the fish, represented here by this red line, has to be at least $60. So ask yourself, what does that word at least mean? Now keep in mind that if we buy fish and we buy other stuff too, that amount has to be less than, or it could be equal to $100. Because if this amount over here, if we add up the amount we spend here and the amount we spend here, and it's more than $100, then we have a problem because we're not going to be able to afford it. Now, if this was an equation, we would go ahead and we would plug in what we know. So we know that the amount for the fish would be 60. We're trying to figure out what's the amount for the pebbles and the toys, and we'd compare that to 100. And we would proceed with doing the inverse operation. The opposite of add 60 to a variable is to subtract it, and we would do that on both sides. And then we would end up having this cancel out over here. This cancels out, because remember this is, add, and this is negative. And this would end up being 40. But the question is, what's the appropriate symbol? Does this symbol carry through and apply? Because, if you look, it's a choice here. Let's kind of think about it for a moment. So let's carry that symbol through. The idea that you're buying some stuff and it has to be less than or equal to $100, and the idea that the pebbles and the toys would have to be less than or equal to $40. So let's actually think about that $40 and see if that actually kind of satisfies it. So if that's $40 and this is $60, are we still, and we take this and add that, we're still able to buy that, right, if we're not talking about tax, because 60 plus 40 would be 100. But let's think about the hypothetical. What does this really mean? If the fish cost at least $60, does that mean they might cost a little more? Is there a chance that they might cost $61 maybe? And if they cost $61, then doesn't that mean we have to back this down to a lower number, like $39? Now, if we take our hypothetical value for x and put it in the place of the variable, because we're just pretending that the fish are just a teeny bit more than that $60, let's see if this answer, our hypothetical answer of 39, actually makes the statement true. If we were to substitute in the 39 and compare that with our symbol here, is 39 less than or equal to 40? And the answer to that question is yes. So that means we're sort of on the right track with this symbol. Now let's look at the choices and make sure we're carefully picking out the right one, because we're talking about x being on the left, which all these have x on the left, and the pointy part is towards the x. We have to pay attention to that because it's easy to get mixed up here. The pointy part is pointing towards the x. So this one's pointing towards the 40, this one's pointing towards the 40, this one is, and this one is. So look carefully, how do those two differ from one another? And then pick the right one from there. All right, good luck finishing this up.